Parsing JSON responses in Thunkable is how you convert raw API output into usable data inside your app. JSON is a structured format made of key value pairs and sometimes lists, and you need to extract those values so you can display them in labels, lists, or other components. Start by opening your Thunkable project and making sure your web API or web component is already set up to send a request and receive a response. This response is what contains the JSON data you will work with. When the API returns data, it usually comes in a nested structure. Your first task is to understand what keys exist in the response. For example, it might include fields like name, email, or temperature, or it might return an array of items. In the block logic, once the API request is completed, you take the response and begin extracting values. You use property-based blocks to access specific keys inside the JSON. For example, you point to the response and select the key you want, such as name, to retrieve its value. After extracting a value, you can immediately use it in your app. You might set a label's text to the extracted value, store it in a variable, or pass it into another component. This is what transforms raw JSON into visible content. If the response contains a list or array, you need to handle it differently. Instead of pulling a single value, you loop through the array using list blocks. Each item in the list can be accessed one by one, allowing you to display multiple records in a list viewer or data viewer. Inside each item, you can again extract specific fields. For example, if each object contains a product name and price, you can pull those values and display them in a repeating layout. This is commonly used for APIs that return collections of data. Variables are often used alongside parsing. You can store extracted values in variables first, then use those variables across your app. This helps organize your logic and makes it easier to reuse data in different screens or actions. If you're using Thunkable's AI chat instead of manual blocks, you can simply describe the behavior. For example, you can say extract name and email from API response and show them in a list, and the system will generate the parsing logic automatically. Testing is important because JSON structures are not always the same. When you run your app in preview mode, check whether correct values are being displayed. If something is missing, it usually means the key name is incorrect or the data is nested deeper than expected. Once set up correctly, JSON parsing allows your app to display live data from external sources, making it more dynamic and useful. And that's how you parse JSON responses in Thunkable using block logic. You take the API response, extract values using keys or lists, and use those values to power your app's interface.